back to Joseph. So the question is, why in the middle of the Joseph story did we go learn about Tamar and Judah? So this is going to be a parallel. It's going to be a parallel between Judah and Tamar compared to Joseph and Potiphar's wife. So Judah is the disloyal adulterer, and Joseph is going to be compared to him as not being an adulterer. So now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt. Potiphar, an Egyptian who was one of Pharaoh's officials and the captain of the guard, bought him from the Ishmaelites who were taken. English, let's try again. Take two. Now, Joseph, who had been taken down to Egypt, Potiphar, an Egyptian who was one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard, brought him from the Ishmaelites and had taken him there. So, if you couldn't understand what I just said, Potiphar bought him from the Ishmaelites as a slave. The Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. When his master saw that the Lord was with him and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant. So the word, I just learned this recently, the word attendant, I think previous translations of the NIV, I think it used to say servant, and I just recently learned that the Hebrew word means waiter, so one who waits upon. So my original idea for Joseph was for him to be doing all this hard labor and gaining muscles, and so then Potiphar's wife would look at the muscles and go, "Ooh, hey, look at you. You work out." But no, he's actually just a waiter. But Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted to his care everything he owned. From the time he put him in charge of his household and all that he owned, the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian because of Joseph. The blessing of the Lord was on everything Potiphar had, both in the house and in the field. So Potiphar lost everything he had in Joseph's care. With Joseph in charge, he did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate. Now Joseph was well built and handsome, and after a while, his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, "Come to bed with me." But I'm imagining Eartha Kitt. I'm imagining the voice of Eartha Kitt, the old Batman from the 60s. Catwoman from the 60s. But he refused. "With me in charge," he told her, "my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns has been entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, she refused to go to bed with her or even be with her. Wow. Stay away from me. Stay away from me, ma'am, woman. So another thing I've learned, and I'm not sure about the source. I think this came from one of the commentaries that I read, is that it wasn't just that she found him handsome, and it could have been a custom that the wives would do this with their slaves because it was a sign of power that they had over them. So it shows that the dominance, that's the word I'm looking for, dominance over the slaves. And the man would be away from the house, neglecting the wife. So the woman, the wife, would have full reign over the men of the household. So one day he went into the house and to attend to his duties, and none of the household servants were inside. She caught him by his cloak, and said, "Come to bed with me." But he left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house. When she saw that he had left his cloak in her hand and had run out of the house, she called her household servants. "Look," she said to them, "this Hebrew has been brought to us to make sport of us. He came in here to sleep with me, but I screamed. When he heard me scream for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house." She kept his cloak beside her until his master came home. Then she told him the story. "That Hebrew slave you brought to us came to me to make sport of me, but as soon as I screamed for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house." Well, does this look familiar? She left. That Hebrew slave you brought us came to make sport of me. So, if you compare this to the sentence that Adam said about his wife, Eve, "This woman that you gave me told me to eat, so I ate." So Potiphar's wife is blaming this instance on Potiphar, just like Adam was blaming the forbidden fruit on his wife. Blaming it on God himself. "It's your fault that you gave me this wife who told me to eat, so I ate." So that's what we're seeing here. That's the parallel that we're seeing here. "But as soon as I screamed for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house." When his master heard the story, his wife told him, saying, "This is how your slave treated me." He burned with anger. Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined. But while Joseph was there in the prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those in the prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care, because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. I never noticed the parallel between the warden and Potiphar. I just now noticed that. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care, similar to how Potiphar didn't have to pay attention to anything in the house, because the Lord was with Joseph. Very well written book, this Bible is.